Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me as once again we look to the horizon, bringing you another writing update. I am plugging away at Fire and Gold. This is the second time I've done this in the last month or so. One of the times, if you follow me on my blog, was actually on my blog where I posted a chapter of Fire and Gold under the title Burning Bright. Not great, not great. But we got that straightened out. And I am here bringing you the update on that project. And update is everything is done but the epilogue. And the epilogue is actually one of the hardest parts to write, it turns out, because I have to get myself back into Roy Harper's headspace. And I've been out of it for a while now, probably a good 4 or 5 months. So that's proved a little more challenging than I thought. Maybe this exercise would have been better to do when I was more used to moving in and out of writing from his point of view. But I think I'm going to get it done. I think I have his tone and perspective back. So I'm looking forward to getting that written and publishing the final chapter proper of the story tomorrow. This video is going up a little bit late. It's going up on Thursday rather than the normal Wednesday, just because I had some difficulties. I had some business to take care of in the evenings, and I was not able to get to recording it ahead of time like I usually do. And I didn't even get around to recording it the day of. So, yeah, a little bit behind on this, and I hope you'll accept my apologies. Actually, I will not be posting. Now that I think about it, I will not be posting the chapter tomorrow, but rather on Saturday, as I am continuing my experiment with posting chapters on Saturdays. This is something I'm doing for the month of February, and seeing how much engagement I get versus posting on Fridays. So far, the data is pretty inconclusive. I seem to get more engagement on the Saturday that I post it, but less engagement in the week following. I don't know if it's just easier for people to catch it on a Saturday, and so everybody comes in and reads it at once, and so they don't need to come in and look at the blog again until the vlog goes up or until the next chapter posts on the next Saturday. So it's kind of hard to tell, honestly, with only a couple of data points to go off of, but we'll see. We'll see. Things are proceeding apace there. I think I will probably continue this experiment through the month of March, just so I can get another 4 or 5 Saturdays of data to work on. And then I think I will come to a final decision. Right now, I'm leaning towards leaving it on Saturday, because if the numbers are going to be pretty much the same either way, it is a little more evenly spaced with a vlog on Wednesday and a chapter on Saturday. And I think it's better that the chapter is read the day it comes out for algorithm and SEO purposes. Although I'm not sure, with the current size of my readership, how big a difference having 3 or 4 more readers on the day it comes out as opposed to later in the week, how much of a difference that will really make. But we're experimenting, and I think right now I actually like the outcomes, but I'm going to continue to gather data before I jump into something half-baked. Um, for other writing stuff I am doing, I have just come off an annual volunteer position I do where I read and offer feedback on the writing of some young authors in the region. And it is a program through a theater organization that I work with. And as a result, it is not aimed at a specific group of people, but at a broad age group. And every year they do this playwright thing. And most years I've been asked, for the last 4 or 5 years now, I've been asked to be a judge in that. And in addition to that, I have been offering some critique and feedback for an author I know who is actually, it's interesting. He writes in English as a second language, and it's been interesting to see some of the differences in writing styles on display there. But we'll come back to that. Really, what I want to do is I want to say a little bit about how critiquing and offering feedback to other writers is a good way to sharpen your understanding of storycraft. And I say that in part because when you read and you critique other writers, you are not just reading, which is good. You should read. All authors should read a lot. but you are also breaking down what you're reading, and you're trying to help somebody understand where their strengths are and where their stories are falling a little bit flat. And it's true that simply being able to point out, well, a story here is falling flat, is not all it takes to write a good story. There are a lot of other skills you have to develop. You have to get good at offering prose. You have to get good at um, at the acting and reacting part of writing, because when you are an author, you are essentially the cast, the actor, and the director for an entire film, if you want to think of it in those terms. And you have to be essentially a performer and an interpreter through the written word, which is prose. So you have to be both the actor and the performer in that situation. And that is a skill that not all critics have. In fact, some very good literary critics have prose that is inscrutable and would make any story they tried to tell very difficult for people to follow along with. There are also writers who can offer good prose, but they cannot act. And what I mean by that is their characters will what is the best way to put this? Their characters will say things that make sense and take actions that make sense, but they will not have mannerisms, or their way of expressing themselves will come off as wooden or unstable or as incongruent with other aspects of their character as written. And learning to find places where you can smooth down that dialogue, where you can make their behaviors and attitudes fall in line with the other expectations their characters set. In fact, all the expectations, their character's actions, their place in life, their age, their personality, their disposition, their habits. You want all of those to blend together seamlessly and make sense. That's not to say you can't have contradictions in one character, but you want them to feel holistic. You want them to feel as though all of them are relating together inside a single person, as opposed to being separate. You cannot have a character who behaves like SpongeBob SquarePants some of the time, and as Aragorn of the Men of the West at other times. It's those character elements are very incongruous, and you can't have a character who is a very dignified leader like Aragorn is, and who has a very ridiculous and slapstick side to him. SpongeBob does, but you cannot simply paste those two characters together. As you try and reconcile these two very contradictory elements into a congruous whole, you have to start thinking about how they interplay with each other, about the tensions that creates in the person, about the tensions those create in the person's relationships, and also the ways they can actually help one another achieve their ends. A leader with a sense of humor, even a slapstick sense of humor, has certain advantages over a leader with no sense of humor, and that's another thing you have to think about. I've gone on a tangent, and I actually intend to do a video at some point on conflicting character elements, but it's not really what I want to talk about here. Blending all of those things is a skill which critics don't necessarily have. It is something that is more done by taste. You cannot simply dump the ingredients into the mix in pre-measured elements and make a good, living, breathing character, good story. So it is good to be a critic, while that is not the only thing you need to do. And as you offer critique, as you see the weaknesses and the strengths in other writers, you can also steal shamelessly their good techniques, and you can look for ways where you are potentially slipping into the pitfalls there, and that's good. And it probably seems obvious to most people who have ever offered pointers to another person at any point in time. There's a saying, the teacher learns as much as the student, because they're going back with much more care and in a much more conscious fashion, reviewing things that they already knew. That's all very good, but there is another advantage of offering critique, And that is simply that it puts you in a different headspace. It is very difficult to break out of the writer's mindset that you can make anything work if you put enough effort into it. If you are just creative enough, you can bring together all these story elements and these plot beats, and you can make them all work in a very specific period of time or space on the page, depending on the medium you're working in, of course. And the critic looks at all of that and he says, no, you're just bringing in all this extraneous stuff. The heart of your story is X, and you need to focus on that. Or, the your character's contradictory elements are not enhancing him right now. You need to either blend them together or cut one of them off. And getting out of the headspace of, I can make this story work, which is where a writer has to be most of the time, and into the headspace of, what is the Achilles heel of this story, is oftentimes what it takes to move a mediocre story into the realm of a good story. And doing critique work, I have found over the years, really helps me with that. Anyway, I think that's all. I feel like I forgot something. Well, if I think of it, I'll write it down and I will bring it to you in next week's vlog. Anyway, that's all I've got for you this week. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, there's a like button and a subscribe button down below. You can use those as you see fit. And I will talk to you later.